Welcome into I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. It is prep week. It's time. It is the first iteration of the 12-team college football playoff. We have the first round. We have schools hosting. We are pumped up if you can't tell. Tyson, we've been thinking about this for a while, right? We had a couple weeks off. We were able to give our first early thoughts, and now we are in the mud. Now we're looking at it. We are breaking things down from a schematic standpoint. We are giving out picks at the end of the show and money-making time. We are in the fold.
Yeah, I'm pumped, dude. I'm like, I keep thinking about it over and over again. I live in FCS country. I see something similar to this all the time, and in my head, this is way different. This is a new thing, because it is. Like, it's sure the FCS has a 24 team and all of that stuff. I think that the college football playoff at the big boy level has a chance to offer a different level of parity than we've seen in the sport, because the FCS playoffs are fun, dude. They're huge, but it's the Dakota schools, it's the Montana schools, it's somebody else from the Missouri Valley Conference, and there is no parity. We know the 4 or 5 that are going to be there at the end. This feels different, and maybe it's because this college football season has felt the most wide open since like maybe 2007. That's playing into my excitement here. But if we can get this year over year, then I don't. Look, you can expand if you want to, and they're going to, but this feels like the perfect 12-team matchup, Brad, because I don't know what's happening in any of these 4 games, and I'm going to give picks like I do.
Let's get into it then. Let's start with Friday, December 20th. Indiana travels to Notre Dame. This is on 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC and ESPN. This is a huge game, man. I mean, people are talking about, like, my brother's traveling to this. He's got a bunch of his college buddies who are going, so he's all fired up, going to South Bend, checking this one out. And it's like, once in a lifetime thing, right? Like, that's what the fans are thinking. But Tyson, you were telling me the team isn't necessarily operating like that.
No, this is it's college football. You take on the personality of your head coach, Curtis Rourke, at the press conference. They ask him, how does it feel that this might be your last college football game? He said, I got 4 of these things left. Leave me alone. I'm gonna be talking to you guys a week from now. Don't worry about it. And that's an attitude that you have to have. And on the flip side, Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman gets a contract extension. Vibes are high. This is where they feel as a program they're supposed to be every year. It's been a minute since they had a seat at the table in one of these games. It felt like they could win. No disrespect to Brian Kelly in that era, but it was like, okay, fine. They're in the 14 playoff. They're going to get housed. They're in the BCS championship. They're going to get killed. This is a team with the number 1 pass defense in the country, dude, and an offense that's really scary and is run all over people. This is why home field advantage in these things is so cool, because we're going to get a high of 30 degrees, and that sets up perfectly for ND.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the games. Like I said, we're going to give out picks on the games. We're just like it's March Madness, right? We're going to write the games or write our picks we think is going to win. And at the end, we give out who we're actually putting our whole cold, hard cash on against the spread, totals, whatever we're looking at here. So keep that in mind. Now, Tyson, when I look at this, people are going to say, oh, Indiana, they're going to be overmatched by Notre Dame. I don't think that's the case here. And they're going to point to Ohio State. If it wasn't for 2 special teams blunders, Indiana, that's like a 1-score game. I mean, they're super close. And this is the reason why. Indiana offensively is 7th in the country in EPA per rush. They are 4th in EPA per dropback. But it's been really good with Curtis Rourke there. They've been able to run the football. They got guys in the trenches who can move their opposing team. Now, Notre Dame is also good. Like, they're all good, right? There's 12 teams left, and they're competing for a championship. Notre Dame 9th in EPA per rush, 1st in EPA per dropback. So this is going to be a challenge for Indiana to move the football. Notre Dame also a little bit untested, right? Like, they play the independent schedule still. So we're not quite sure if they can go through a gauntlet, if they would have these same numbers if they were playing a Big Ten schedule like Indiana just did, although, they had one of the softer schedules in this event. On the flip side, Indiana's defense, like, that's the question people have. Can they hold up? They're 11th in EPA per rush, really good at stopping the run, and 16th in EPA per dropback. Like, they've done a good job in the secondary. Notre Dame's strength, they want to run the football. They're 3rd in EPA per rush, have been struggling throwing the football with Riley Leonard, 30th in EPA per dropback. But once they're able to establish the run, the play action game is there. They've been able to take shots down the field. So, I mean, again, on paper, this is a great matchup. And Indiana, based on these advanced stats, is going to be able to hold their own here.
Yeah, I think some of the Notre Dame's going to out-athlete them. That whole crowd is maybe a little bit misguided. Indiana has some really good athletes. Where Notre Dame's advantage really lies is in the big boys, is in the guys going to go play on Sunday at that offensive line. They move people. They've won 10 games in a row, almost all of them in convincing fashion. There's been some moments where you look up and you're like, oh, they're not making the playoffs. They're going to fumble this one. But they end up winning those games. They get by A&M early in the season, and that's really kind of the signature here. But USC scared them pretty heavily to end the season, and this weather is going to play a factor in this football game, and it's something you can't discount. But look, I'm taking Indiana's passing game over USC's, and we'll see kind of what was put on tape and all of that sort of stuff, because we had an extended layoff for these teams, and these guys get to this matchup was essentially one that was almost written in stone from 3 weeks ago, where it was like, okay, this is what we're going to get in the first round. I know these two have been doing their homework on each other. I am pumped for this.
It's going to be a great game. Tyson, I think Notre Dame is going to win this game. Home, it's hard to win in South Bend, man. It just is. It's going to be super hotly contested. I think Notre Dame's just going to do enough. They're going to win on a field goal. They're going to win by 3, something late in the game. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be a thriller.
Yeah, I hope so. It's Friday night. It's standalone. I think that Notre Dame, or there's bowls and stuff, but this is the show. I think that Notre Dame is going to win this game as well, but I do think it's going to be close. I've been just kicking myself all week because I want to take Indiana money line so bad. I love 𝐟𝐸𝐫𝐽. I have gone on multiple soliloquies about him over the course of the season. I love Curtis Rourke. I think it's one of the coolest stories in college football. And as you mentioned, they were in that game with Ohio State, except for like the punter. He drops the ball essentially on the 1 yard line. That's a free touchdown. All of a sudden, the game's over. Those things have to be cleaned up. But I think Notre Dame just has a little bit too much as far as big guys go. Indiana's really good, but they got pushed around the only time they saw somebody, like them.
Let's move into the Saturday slate. This is the first one out of the 3 that are going to be taking place in the CFP first round. SMU travels to Happy Valley to face Penn State. This is at 12 p.m. Eastern on TNT. Let's start here. I think weather is going to be a factor. I really do.
28?
28. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be swirling. It's going to be tough. And I know people are like, well, it gets cold in Dallas. I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing here? If you haven't been like the middle of Pennsylvania in the freaking winter, like your bones are freezing because you got the humidity combined with just absolute chill. It's brutal. Like, it's super cold. You're going to tell me these Southern kids are going to come up here and play in that? It's going to be tough. I'm telling you. And so, Tyson, everything's setting up for Penn State. Like, we talked about this in our first kind of early look ahead. Like, Penn State, this is a game they should win. And I think they're going to be set up to do it because of this weather.
Yeah, and it gets cold in Dallas, but this isn't the 2000s Florida Gators or Alabama Crimson Tide or LSU Tigers. This is a team that wants to hit explosives. They rely on their speed. If football games were 90 minutes, they might have ended up winning the ACC championship. We're not even having this conversation, but it was a 60-minute game. They got outclassed for the first half, and Kevin Jennings brought him back, and that was awesome. But that was through speed, man, and it's tough to get going when it's 28 degrees outside, and Penn State is a run first. We're going to punch you in the face. We got Tyler Warren for when we need him, and guess what? What defensive back in the country, SMU, Georgia, Texas, whoever wants to see that guy, in the open field in a dome, let alone when the wind's blowing and there might be snow on the ground. This weather certainly sets up for Penn State. I do think that Kevin Jennings might offer a little bit different look from the quarterback position than Penn State's had to deal with. They've seen guys similar. I think Kevin Jennings is really good, but he needs to put together 4 solid quarters, which is something that we haven't really seen. It's kind of snuck under the radar over the season. He's either been banged up or he's been really good for a half and things like that. You got to have all 4 to beat this Penn State team. They look tough.
And this is going to be something to watch here for SMU's offense. Everything goes from Kevin Jennings. Like, they're 9th in EPA per drop back. Like, if they can pass the ball, they can stay on schedule, that's going to be how they move it. That's how they've been able to put up a ton of points this year. They're one of the top scoring teams in the country, but they're 39th in EPA per rush. I mean, they've been able to rush the ball. Like, it's been fine. They want to run the ball. Like Rhett Lashley, that's how he wants to operate, but it's not been great there. And then you're going up against a defense in Penn State that's 6th in EPA per rush, 9th in EPA per drop back. So I know everything's kind of skewed a little bit because of that Oregon game. Like, and I think as Penn State fans, we're like, there are warning signs for that. Nobody was necessarily really able to take advantage of it. Then Oregon all of a sudden just came through with the blowtorch, and it was like, whoa. But they did a really good job against the run, I thought, Penn State. And that's against a good Oregon team, a good offensive line who's able to move it. And so that's going to be the battle here, right? Like if Penn State can stop SMU on early rushing downs, force Kevin Jennings to sit back and throw, this is a good secondary, contrary to popular belief now, or maybe public perception after that Big Ten championship game. It's a bunch of young guys. Like they have to have confidence. They have to go. But I think that's the battle there. Then Tice, on the flip side, you mentioned Penn State wanting to run the football. That's exactly accurate. James Franklin loves to have the split. Balance is what he talks about. Their 16th in EPA per rush. SMU's defense is one of the best run-stopping units in the country. They're 5th in EPA per rush. I think they give up the 4th least amount of total yards in the country at the FBS level. So that's going to be a battle. Now, Penn State's offensive line freaking kicked the asses of Oregon's front. Like that was eye-opening on that side of the ball. Not just Nick Singleton was moving, but 𝐾𝐻 Allen, who's been a little bit maligned in Happy Valley coming down the stretch, was like, whoa, this guy has a burst that we haven't seen. If they can do that against SMU, I don't care how good that unit is. Like they're not stopping that. And on the flip side, Tyson, Penn State's 2nd EPA per dropback. We know what Drew Aller can do. He's still underrated nationally. SMU 14th in EPA per dropback on defense. So this is a unit, they're going to pose some issues, right? All these teams are all good. I'm going to say that for every single one here, but that's the matchups there. Can Penn State run the football? Can Penn State stop the run on the other side?
Yeah, and I think Penn State gets out to an early lead here and is just able to grind it out, and in a way that once you can turn SMU into kind of a more one-dimensional unit and let Abdul Carter and those guys just pin their ears back and get going. I'm seeing right now, I saw him mock today in the athletic mock draft. He was going 7th, and I still feel like that might be a little bit disrespectful. This guy is good, folks. He's been awesome, and I think this might be a time that some of these Penn State guys, they're in the Big Ten, and they're not Dillon Gabriel, they don't play for Ohio State, and so, they don't get quite the love they deserve. And you mentioned 𝐾𝐻 Allen being a little bit maligned by some Nittany Lion fans. This is the game where he matters. When it's 25 degrees outside and you can turn around and hand it to a freight train, I think Penn State wins this football game.
I agree. Everybody's going to talk about, James Franklin, big game. It's going to be funny, though, when they win this game, if they win this game.
Doesn't count.
Then it doesn't count. It's not a big game. You should win that. So it's not a big game. If he loses, big game, James can't win. Like it's funny how that works. But we both on agreement here. We think Penn State gets past SMU. Let's move on to the next game here. This is going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern on TNT as well. Clemson traveling to Austin to face Texas. Man, I think if you're Clemson, the ACC champs, they're 3-loss team. You kind of got in. So I think they kind of had to get the 12 seed here. But this is a tough early matchup. Two teams, we said you're sick and tired of them. We didn't do a deep dive because it's like, God, we're just so over them. But now that you've had some time to think here, what are you eyeing in this matchup?
Well, I'm a little bit upset because everything I'm reading and listening to is Clemson had their measuring stick game against Georgia in week 1. This team isn't any different. Yeah, I know. I understand that. Texas is flawed too, and they're going to be able to slow down Clemson, maybe even stop them completely. Let's be honest here. The 𝐾𝐻 might not be able to get anything going. Phil Maffa is sitting on the sidelines in the ACC championship game, which was interesting. Let's see kind of how that works as far as allocation of the football goes for this Clemson offense. But these are two teams that it's almost a little bit of a mirror match here. But I think in situations like this, I'm not going to pick them to win the game. But there is something to be said about playing with house money. When they lost a couple weeks ago, they didn't expect to be here. They needed some miracles, some magic to make the college football playoff, and they got it, and now they're here. And I think that they're not going to rest on their laurels and take this lightly. Texas pass defense is fantastic. The big boys up front are really good. Quinn Ewers turns the ball over like crazy. Quinn Ewers is he's not Carson Beck. That's too much because Carson Beck turns the ball over like a ridiculous amount. But he can keep teams in games in moments like this. We saw it with A&M. He tried to give the game away a few times, and A&M wasn't able to capitalize. I think that Clemson is not the same kind of group that you can say, well, they've been here before and they've been in games like this. But this roster has played massive games year over year. And yes, Texas was just in the national championship, but I think that those two things kind of cancel out. There's no big game edge here for the Longhorns.
So Phil Maffa, Tyson shoulder injury. That's what he was dealing with against Texas. Dabo Sweeney said he's going to need shoulder surgery at the end of the year. And so he's going to be banged up. Now, how about this? It's something to keep an eye on. Jay Haynes, their backup running back, the freshman, he's kind of coming on a little bit, torn ACL, sustained it in the ACC title game. Boy, that is tough. So you're going to have to rely on other guys. That is a huge blow here. You're going to put it in 𝐃𝐨𝐽 hands. He's been much better this season. Year 2 of Garrett Riley, I think the whole world is falling and sky is falling thing for the 𝐾𝐨𝐽 hate was a little bit overblown. He's been much better. 14th in EPA per rush offensively for Clemson. Again, that could take a huge hit. You got to keep in mind on that. 31st in the EPA per dropback. You've had some transfers coming out of there. Still, the guys who are going to be the impact players for Clemson, they're going to be ready to go. Texas, defensively, they've been good. Again, there's question marks if they'd be able to stop the run, how that secondary is going to hold up after the NFL departures. But they're 7th in the EPA per rush, 2nd in the EPA per dropback. So they've done a really good job on the defensive side. And then Clemson's defense, it's spotty. Sometimes they play extremely well. This is a unit that normally always plays well, but it hasn't quite been the same since Brent Venables left and took the Oklahoma job. This year, they're 24th in EPA per rush, 26th in EPA per dropback. Texas offensively, God, man, Jekyll and Hyde, like you just laid out with viewers, like sometimes it just looks so good.
They might win this game by 50.
Not? Right. But they might not win. It's crazy. They're 9th in EPA per rush, 9th in EPA per dropback. Boy, just want to know what you're getting here. And that's the question mark you have with Texas. So to me, Tyson, this is setting up for Texas to win. Like they just have better players, I think, at this point in time, the blue chip ratio. But again, it's just there's so many question marks that you have. What's going to happen Clemson offensively, defensively, and then Texas? Can they just not shoot themselves in the foot?
And I think Clemson's offensive line is probably a little bit too banged up at this point for them to really win the game. But I do expect them to maybe give Texas a little bit of a scare. I'm going to go with Texas here to win this game in this matchup. But, we'll get to it in the picks later on. But I think that there is a little bit of disrespect being thrown a coach's way who happens to handle that and get his guys rallied pretty well.
I'm taking Texas as well. That does scare me. The Dabo Swinney thing, boy, oh boy, that is tough to go against, especially when it's 𝐸𝐽. Oh my God, I know. Feel like old men saying that. Now it's all these hot new young coordinators and coaches. We're like, no, Dabo, come on, baby.
Hey, they got their first transfer the other day, so you can finally stop the count.
First non-quarterback transfer. I think they had one like 2 years ago or something, but there's not even quarterbacks are their own position. But yeah, crazy. They're going for it, man. Let's go, Dabo. Shut up the haters. Last one of the slate, last one of the first round. Tennessee goes to Columbus, goes to the shoe to face Ohio State, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. There has been a lot going around about this game. A lot of ancillary stuff. Is Ryan Day loses? Is he fired? Mike Vrabel going to go coach in college? So a lot of things happening here, Tyson. And we both said early in our predictions that we think Tennessee is going to win this football game. Now, again, we reserve our right to change our mind, that we dug into this a little bit more. So we'll circle back on that when we give out our picks. But what are you breaking down? What are you looking for in this one?
So I'll give a little bit more background on why I thought Tennessee was going to win the football game. I think that we were closer to correct about 𝐾𝐿. I am a little bit like, yes, he struggled to hit big plays this season. That's really the way to beat Ohio State. I think that with some prep time, this could be a spot where their offense can boom a little bit. They didn't look great off the buys here in the regular season, but it's a different thing. The other part is this defense is just fantastic, Brad. The Tennessee Volunteers defense is really good. We just saw what Michigan did to Ohio State. So we were, in our own heads, like if you shoot Michigan up, they might be this year's Tennessee team. They are going to have to hit those explosives. But I'll tell you what, one of these home football teams as the favorite is going to lose this weekend. I think Ohio State is the most susceptible to that with this Tennessee team. Is this the team that, handled Penn State and almost beat Oregon, or is this the one that showed up against Michigan just a couple weeks ago? Is this the one that was starting fights after the game when they didn't have any fight in them in the game? I expect all of those things to be cleaned up. And I think that to me, sure, this game falls on Ryan Day because he's the head football coach. 𝐾𝐿 has got to be way better, brother. You got the best receiving core in the country. You got to utilize these guys. You cannot just run. You have great backs, but it can't be draw two things, inside, outside, then all of a sudden you're punting on 4th and 2. Chip has to be better.
He does, Tyson, in this one, because while Ohio State is 8th in EPA per rush, Tennessee's defense is 1st in EPA per rush stopping it. Like, they've been susceptible. I mean, it's been great. Like, they've been gashed a couple times. I think it's football. Like, you're going to be in the wrong gas sometimes. You get gashed.
And those were like Arkansas,
they have been a
Kentucky, it's not the same. Those are just the SEC games in the middle of the year where you look up and you're like, oh God.
Right. You're like, do we really have to do this? So I agree with you. Chip Kelly's going to have to pivot a little bit more of throwing the ball down the field. I'm not quite sure what the weather is in Columbus. I don't know if you're looking at it, but I assume it's going to be a little bit windy, though. I mean, in Ohio this time of year. But if they have to throw it, Tyson, yes, their third knee paper drop back. We know the Jeremiah Smith thing. We know the 𝐬𝐽𝐫𝐽𝐬 thing. But Tennessee's done a good job of defending in the secondary as well. Their fourth knee paper drop back. So this is going to be a tough challenge for Tennessee. We know that.
So the weather, the low on Saturday is 14. The high is 27.
Holy smokes.
It doesn't sound like snow and rain, but there's a outside chance of a flurry, according to this website. Also, if you're going to the game, you are allowed to bring blankets. I'm glad that they threw this out here. Brad, do you buy into some of this stuff about like, oh, Tennessee's taking over the shoe? They're going to get there. You know, all these tickets are being sold to Tennessee. I have a real hard time picturing anybody taking over this place.
I do too, and there's a whole thing. Well, why is this, there's the secondary markets running this thing? Like nobody's going to go to these football games. Like, can we just wait until we get to these freaking games and look at? This is the first year. Can we just freaking calm down? Not everything has to be a statement being made on this. How about we sit back, we watch the football game, we take in the data, and then we figure out our plan, like or formulate our opinions on things. Like, holy smokes, it's driving me insane.
No, let's talk about it now. Tennessee took over the shoe.
That's it. And then when it happens on Saturday, we're lied. It's AI generated. But Tyson, on the flip side here for Tennessee's offense, this is where they're going to have to be better. Like this, I mean, God, we were begging, and mainly me because I lost money on Tennessee basically the entire year. Like, getting this offense freaking wake up. They're 13th knee paper rush. But Tyson, when they faced better units, Georgia mainly, and some of the other good teams they faced, that running game just wasn't quite the same. Dylan Sampson's a really good back. He's going to need to be good in this one. Ohio State's defense third in knee paper rush. So that's stopping the opposing rushing attack. This is the battle here. Nico and this offense, 39th knee paper drop back. Not quite what you're looking for. Now, again, he's a freshman. I think people anointed him too soon. I don't think he's been awful like people are making it out to be, but he just hasn't been, you know, Jameis Winston as a freshman or Johnny Manziel or anything like that, right? You go through the legends. Like, he's got some room to grow. That's fine. But Ohio State's defense is third in knee paper drop back. Tough challenge, especially on the road. They're going to have to make some plays. He's going to have to be really good. Like, can't be missing those overthrows. Can't be missing the wide open guys running down the field. Has to be on point in this one, or else they're going to lose this football game.
Yeah, I think Tennessee absolutely has the defense to win this football game, and depending on what version the offense shows up, this is a team that can run the football too. It's like we're talking about Nico, and they're going to have to hit the explosive. This is 25 degrees outside. Maybe they just rely on the guy that scores a touchdown every time he touches the ball, it feels like, when you're watching these Tennessee games. Behind that big offensive line, they got some hammers. I think that they absolutely can stay in this game. I know I was picking Tennessee to win. I am more comfortable with the points, and that's something we'll give out later. I think Ohio State wins at home here, but I think it's really, really close, and Tennessee is the most live dog of the week. This is the one that can wag its tail and bite, brother.
Yep, I'm picking Ohio State. It pains me to say that. I'd love for Tennessee to win here just because chaos in Columbus would be beautiful for us in Happy Valley. But Tyson and I are being boring. We're picking all the favorites to advance at least. So that doesn't mean we're just like betting the money lines and it's freaking 7-point spreads. Like, come on, guys. This is a gambling show as well. And that's what we're going to get into right now.
It's money-making time.
So with that in mind, let's go back to the first game that's going to be happening on Friday. I'm taking Indiana in the points. Like, I think Notre Dame's going to win, but 7.5 minus 115 on DraftKings. Give me a break. Like, getting a touchdown and a hook. I'm sorry. Like, Notre Dame's going to have to prove it to me. Like you said, USC was on the verge of knocking them out of the playoff. On the verge. And that was their final test. That was the final step up in class. Yeah, they look good against Army. Yeah, they look good against Navy. All right. Well, Indiana's better than both those teams. I think they're going to present some options that Notre Dame hasn't necessarily seen because the multiplicity that Indiana has with running and passing. So give me the points here.
I like how you phrase that as if you and I weren't just total squares on the Army and the Navy side. Notre Dame has kicked our butts all season long, Brad, but I dare them to do it again. I'm on Indiana plus 7.5.
I love it. So we're riding it here, Tyson. We're going to be simpatico on the next play. I only have 2, which is shocking. For the first time ever, Tyson has more plays than me. This is absolutely beautiful. I've been waiting for this. Penn State minus 8.5, minus 110 on DraftKings. I'm laying the points. I know what people are going to say. You're stupid. You're crazy, James Franklin. Guys, James Franklin frickin' covers games when it's against teams that aren't Ohio State and Michigan. And even then, he's like inside the number. He's only losing by 1 possession games here. Guy knows the number. Guy wants to make a statement. I am a little concerned, though, if like they're up 3 and they don't need the style points at the end, they're going to take knees. Like that, James Franklin doesn't care what you think. He's going to get out of Dodge. Penn State is going to get after Kevin Jennings. Abdul Carter is going to eat. Those non-holding calls that the Big Ten crew missed, SEC crew is calling them. Like, they're calling those flags, folks. Yeah. They're going to be backed up. They're going to be in advantageous positions. I'll take the big arm of Drew Aller down here. Tyler Warren's going to be able to play anywhere, especially in this weather. The big bodies of Penn State's going to wear on these guys from Dallas. The Southern guys aren't going to be able to handle this cold. Give me Penn State -8.5, -110 on DraftKings.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think Penn State wins this game. We were talking before the show. If they score 3 touchdowns, I think they might win. They might cover this spread here. I think SMU is going to have a heck of a time trying to move the football here in this football game.
Well, that's it for me, Tyson. So how about this? You carry the mantle, and I'll do what you normally do. And
I am not used to this, so bear with me here, folks. I'm going with Clemson +11.5. I feel like everybody in the country right now, everybody that that I follow and respect, kind of in this space, is on Texas. I am in disagreement here. This could be a backdoor cover. It could be Clemson staying with them the whole game, but this is a massive number for a guy that has 6 college football playoff wins. Brad, he has 6. Kirby Smart has 5. There's everybody else is tied with 1, basically, of the active head coaches in college football right now. He knows how to get the guys going for these football games, and I think that this is a spot where Clemson can keep this thing within 10 points here. And then I am going with Tennessee +7.5. I want to take them to win the game. You mentioned SMU may not be able to, handle the cold of Penn State. None of these Southern SEC teams have to go up here and play in this 25-degree weather. I think Tennessee is uniquely suited for that. They do remind you of the early 2000s Bama and Floridas that I mentioned earlier. And I think that they have a not just an outside shot. I think they have like a 45% chance to win this football game here. I am not sold on Ohio State. I don't expect them to rebound very well from that game against Michigan. But these guys can't go out like suckers at home.
Yeah, I know. So here I want to take Tennessee with you. It's just everybody and their mother is on it, and I may be stupid. And the whole fade the public thing is kind of dumb because everybody's got this information now. So sometimes and the public wins. Like how many like record-setting years of the public winning do you have to have this? Like, oh, maybe that's not the thing anymore. And so it's another good year in the NFL for the public, by the way, folks. Like I think we kind of put setting that records every week. Like. It's who do you like this week? That's basically what it is. The Clemson thing is interesting because I think they're a little banged up, Tyson.
Definitely.
I'm scared about that. But boy, oh boy, the Dabo angle. That's why I'm not putting my money on it because I'm like, God, Dabo could do it. I'm not taking Texas, and they could win by 50, like you said. So I may have bet regret on these 2 games that you played.
It's an emotional hedge because if you go back to the beginning of the season, I got an Oregon feature ticket to win the national championship, and I sprinkled Texas. So if they can just if I can win twice here, that'd be fantastic. But if they lose out, I gotta make a little cheddar.
The rest of our plays, Tyson, where can they find those?
The rest of your plays will be in the Discord app. The rest of my plays on bowl games will be in there as well. The rest of the community that we've built plays will be in there. College basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, whatever you can think of is in the Discord. Link is in the bio. Group name, as I said what I said. Tons of different options for you in there. If you want to throw some soccer picks or whatever else, we got something for you there too. You want to talk about MMA happening on Saturday night, go ahead and throw that in there. Let us know what you're doing. Saturday is a great day for that to be in the Discord because we have the college football playoffs and we have 2 NFL games going on at the same time. You get to make a cross, or same sport cross level parlay here, which you don't get the chance to do very much. So take advantage. Absolutely. They took it away from us when they moved all the Thanksgiving games. Now it's like Memphis and Tulane or whatever, and it used to be LSU was playing A&M and Egg Bowl, all that stuff.
I know. Yep. So now this is your opportunity here, like Tyson said. Plus, if you're wondering what the other bowl games are playing, that is something we previously recorded. We did our first cycle. That's why you got to stay subscribed. That's why you can't miss anything here because we got you covered during this busy time. I know it's holiday stuff. Everybody's going out, running around.
Did you hit that Memphis bet yesterday?
Pushed the funniest and craziest game I have pushed. That was just pure comedy. Oh, baby. What a way to start off bowl season for me. But no harm, no foul. Like the show on the way out if you're watching on YouTube too. And, share it with a friend, share it with an enemy. Again, we want to help you out during this time. It's the holiday season. We know you're busy. That's what we're here for. So if anybody else is like, God, I couldn't do as much prep, that's why you got to share the show with them. So again, we appreciate you support. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back later this week, giving out our NFL plays. That keeps on chugging along. So we'll talk to you guys then. Peace.